On the 25th of September 2024, a train fault on the east-west line, which ultimately led to a power fault, caused massive disruptions for the entire day. The disruption was so bad it actually continued for a few more days, and SMRT targeted for it to end on the 30th. Now, I know for us train enthusiasts, we find disruptions actually quite exciting. And I guess part of the reason why we find it exciting is because we see trains terminating at stations that they would not usually terminate at on normal services. Especially now during a disruption, there are many different terminating stations instead of the normal Pasir Ris, Tuas Link and Joo Koon. And I know for normal commuters, this would literally be the worst possible thing because you can't ride the train the whole way. Anyways, let's dive into what actually happened on the day itself. The first thing that was seen was a train pulling into Clementi station emitting smoke. Passengers were detrained at Clementi and the train subsequently returned to Ulu Pandan Depot. However, and as the train was returning to Ulu Pandan Depot reception track number 3, the train derailed. But how did this lead to the power fault? The train axle box on one of our first generation trains dropped and caused the wheels of a bogie to come off the running rail and hit track equipment, including the third rail and point machines, leading to the power fault. What train set was involved? It was C151 set 065066, a KHI train that has been in service for more than 35 years. But why is this disruption so long? When the train was already off the running rail, it caused damage to the third rail and other track point machines and the rail itself. 34 rail cracks were found. After traffic hours ended on the north, south and east-west lines, all KHI trains had their axle boxes inspected to ensure that the trains could enter service the next day without any problems. Hopefully. Now let's look at the different stretches of the east-west line that did have train service and didn't. There was no train service between Buona Vista and Jurong East. In replacement, free bridging buses were deployed between these stations to help commuters. Train services were available between Buona Vista and Queenstown using shuttle train services on both eastbound and westbound tracks. I filmed set 129-130 doing this service on the westbound track, heading B-directional towards Queenstown. Enjoy the ride.
Next station, Commonwealth. Jangan tinggalkan barang anda tanpa diawasi. Jika anda ternampak orang atau barang yang mencurigakan, sila laporkan kepada kaki tangan kami atau tekan butang kecemasan yang terletak di tepi pintu kereta api.
There's the other train running between Queenstown and Buona Vista on the eastbound track, B-directional towards Buona Vista. It is C151A set 501-502.
This train has stopped here for a short while because the train ahead is still at the next station. Doors are closing. Next station, Queenstown. Next train, 这辆列车将在此停止服务，请下车。
车，并搭乘下一趟列车. Perkhidmatan kereta api ini akan berakhir di stesen ini. Sila turun dan naik kereta api yang seterusnya.
This train terminates here at Queenstown. Passengers heading towards Pasir Ris will have to alight the train and wait for the next train bound for Pasir Ris at the same platform, as this train will be turning around on the same track towards Buona Vista. This led to some confusion for some passengers, as they thought that this train would be heading towards Pasir Ris, but instead this train was heading to Buona Vista. Let's take a look at the next stretch. Train services between Pasir Ris and Queenstown were running normally, and no special arrangements were required. Now here's the train that arrived after 129-130 left towards Buona Vista. This is set 077-078 towards Pasir Ris. This train used the Queenstown crossover, which is rarely used during normal train services. Trains heading westbound from Pasir Ris had a slightly more special arrangement in the evening. Trains would either terminate at Queenstown or Outram Park. Outram Park was once a common terminus during the lunchtime express days, which ended in 2014. The reason why Outram Park was used this time I'm not so sure, but I'm guessing it was to ease the train congestion at Queenstown, as there were shuttle trains also operating into Queenstown, between Queenstown and Buona Vista. I already uploaded a video of set 085-086 during a Outram Park service, which you can see in the description below. Now for the western stretch of the east-west line, train services between Jurong East and Boon Lay were available. Similarly to the Queenstown and Buona Vista stretch, trains were running using shuttle services on both eastbound and westbound tracks. And finally, train services between Tuas Link and Boon Lay were available, with no special arrangements required. And now you may be thinking, do I have any clips of these stretches? No, because the MRT was disrupted and I didn't want to take the shuttle bus, and then got so crowded that I don't want to take why every time like this? What? There is no question that this is probably one of our worst or the worst MRT incident in our history of 37 years. But honestly, we should be thankful that we even have an MRT to begin with. We currently have 6 MRT lines, 3 LRT lines, a great bus service system, and 2 future MRT lines on the way. For our small nation, I find that outstanding enough. Look, this was not a pleasant experience for most commuters and most Singaporeans. It might be interesting for us enthusiasts, but majority were affected by this disruption. This is not the first breakdown we ever had, and it certainly won't be our last. This was also probably the worst one in 37 years. Look, I know breakdowns like these are hard to ignore, but we should also look at the times when our MRT is up and running, and that's most of the time. There may be minor inconveniences here and there, but compared to the rest of the world, I find our MRT system super efficient enough. And in times like these, it really shows how reliant we are on our MRT system. 358,000 people were affected by this disruption. Definitely gonna go down in the history books. I'm not associated with SMRT or LTA at all, but I really appreciate the efforts they've done to rectify all the problems which happened, remove the damaged train, and try to restore train service. It may take a while, but at least it's getting done. It might be hard to realize how many factors have to fall into favor to get even one train running on the line. There are many different components in a railway system: P-way, rolling stock, power, OCC, DCC, all of these departments help to keep our train system running and working. We very easily take for granted the reliability of our transportation system here in Singapore, not just the MRT. Instead of complaining, we should be thankful for the people who have been helping us get through this disruption. I truly hope this disruption will be over soon and our East-West line will return back to full operations.